And we are live.
Hello.
Hey.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and welcome to our third webinar, which is entitled How to Boost Sales Safely with Pre-Bookings and Pre-Sales When Lockdown Ends. We've done an extremely good job so far in keeping to time in the last two sessions, which have lasted around 45 minutes, dependent on questions, obviously. And on that, just some housekeeping. Any questions, please pop them in the chat and we'll get through as many of those as we can at the end of this session. So, boosting sales through pre-bookings and pre-sales, a fairly broad subject matter. So I'm really pleased to welcome three panelists to the webinar who I hope you'll agree by the end can help us navigate this topic. So using this time also to check everyone's here and everyone's audio is working, let's introduce everyone. If I could kindly ask everyone to just introduce their business and role and save me getting that bit wrong. First up, we've got Amber Staynings, founder of Bums on Seats. Hey, Amber.
Hello everybody. So Bums on Seats, I've actually been in the industry for a very long time, for the last 20 years. I come from publicans, so it was quite a natural fit for me. My career spans Novus Leisure, where I was running Late Night London, then head of sales. I then went into Drake & Morgan as their head of sales. I then set up an independent consultancy where I was running long-term contracts with people like Casual Dining Group and Deltic Group. And that led me to January 2019, where I took the bold step to actually launch a sales agency. We are specialists in all pre-book sales for hospitality and leisure. We work all across the country and we focus on pre-booked audits, sales training, and of course, consultancy as well.
Thank you, Amber. Great to have you with us. We also have Melissa McMurdock, founder of Out and Out Entry. Hey, Melissa.
Hi, hi everyone. I hope you're well. So I'm Melissa McMurdock. I am the owner and founder of Out and Out Entry. We are a predominantly boutique style agency, so a third party that deals with hen, stag and group events. And really our focus is to support not only the sort of big businesses, the likes of Revolutions, Deltic, Stonegate, but also those smaller businesses in terms of bringing guests, whether that be through cocktail masterclasses or more niche events such as burlesque or dance, and bringing those customers to you without the cost of, you know, arguably spending money on marketing and advertising. We give you the consumer and you give us a slightly sort of preferred supplier rate. So that's me in a nutshell. My background, hospitality for the sort of last nearly 10 years, working for Entertain, Stonegate, Eclectic Bars and Brighton Pier. So that's me.
Thanks, Melissa. And last but not least, we have Linda Miles, head of operations at All Star Lanes. How are you doing, Linda?
Hi there. Yes, so I'm with All Star Lanes. All Star Lanes is a boutique group of bowling alleys, predominantly in central London, but we do have one in Manchester as well. Alongside the sort of traditional retro bowling experience, we offer full dining restaurants and fantastic cocktail bars as well. So we like to think we're more than just a standard bowling alley.
Thanks, Linda. And thanks to the three of you for joining us. I can't wait to get deep into this topic with you. So where this is your first webinar, or it's not your first, I'm Steve Dalton, country manager at Singa. I'll be moderating to a degree, asking any questions.
We're not going to fight, Steve, don't worry.
Yeah, and just I guess just keeping us to time as best as possible, because I know that we don't want these webinars to drag on for too long. But I'll work on doing the least amount of talking so you can hear, most importantly, what Amber, Melissa and Linda have got to say on this topic. So once again, thanks for everyone for joining, and I guess let's just kick this off now. So one of the first things I wanted to cover, which was this quite a broad question, which is why pre-book? I think a lot of people that's joining this webinar will look at the subject title and think, okay, there's some there's some keywords there that could mean a lot to my business. I'd like to learn a little bit more. So I'd like to kind of address that first, which is why pre-book? Why would you do pre-book? What are the benefits, and what have the three of you learned about what that means, and where you might start? So Amber, if you wouldn't mind perhaps kicking us off on that, would be great.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
I think pre-booked at the moment is more key than ever for obvious reasons. I don't want to keep talking about COVID, but that is a fact, because it ultimately your control. So I think fundamentally it's best for the customer and it's best for the operator as well. It's very easy to control numbers. It's very easy to turn tables. It's very easy to gain pre-orders and upsells and packages, so you can instantly increase spend per head. It's a revenue driver. And it also enables you to look after the customer. So things like guest loyalty, repeat visits, return visits, all of that becomes a lot more viable when you implement a pre-book sales structure. Just to clarify, by pre-book, it basically covers any advanced booking. So it could be 2 people for dinner, right the way through to a party of 500 for a corporate event, and everything in between. So it's really, really vast. Ultimately, for me, pre-booked has to start with the guest journey, the online booking journey. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail. But I think it's just a must-have at the moment for any operator in any business. And it's really quite simple to implement and to be good at. And so much about it is about that guest experience.
And I think, it's a question of where where do you start? A lot of businesses will be. So I think what we can start to address in maybe some of the further questions is exactly how complex you might or might not want to make that journey. And from the sounds of it, starting somewhere is key, but maybe not necessarily having the grand plan necessarily from day one. But in order to forecast business and get repeat customer, that's quite important, right?
Yeah, massively. I think customer loyalty is key. We know that hospitality is very competitive. It's probably going to be more competitive. We know that footfall is going to be decreasing. We know that we've got social distancing. Pre-book sales can manage all of those elements. So especially if anyone's nervous about reopening or what that looks like, you're getting your pre-book sales strategy right, and your floor plans and your layouts, all of that, it makes everything a hell of a lot easier. And of course, it builds trust with the customer, and it's the first place where you can make them feel safe and secure.
Yeah. And I think just to add on to that, Amber, it's a really good point, is see, our entry is purely pre-booked. We don't have a business without pre-bookings and sending those bookings in advance to our suppliers effectively. So I think it can become an overwhelming task at times when you're looking at a pre-booking structure. When I worked for Brighton Pier PLC or Eclectic Bars, we moved everything into a central hub, if you like, and that really was to drive pre-bookings and to drive really customer engagement as well. And also when you can control that communication with customers, whether that's via email or phone calls, and your calls are being answered, there really becomes that kind of consumer and sort of relationship, if you like. So I think that's really important, is not to get overwhelmed. You don't have to have the biggest sort of technical setup or CRM. You can start things off really, really slowly by just looking at who your customer sort of target customers are, and then working out how they want to be communicated to. Once you've got those fundamentals, you then can start to put a plan together.
Yeah, agreed.
Really good, thanks. And I'm putting this, I guess, the next area into a bit more context to your businesses, because you're all running and operating different businesses for different types of customers, but all in and around hospitality. And everything that's come up in the last few webinars is always right now has all been around the current situation. There's lots of ambiguity, not knowing where we're going. So we have to step into these questions with an air of uncertainty, of course. But what we've seen, the whole staycation kind of opening in the UK. So people will be traveling a little bit less abroad. Perhaps they'll be looking to spend their money closer to home. If the holiday market opens up a bit more in the UK, people will be saying, well, okay, I'll travel a little bit further afield, but I'll stay close to home, but I'm looking for experiences and destinations that I can do certain things. How do you see that operating within your businesses, both short and long term? Is this something that you're considering over the next couple of months with regards to dialing up the whole pre-book element?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key for our industry, and everyone who works in our industry will know, is adaptability, Steve, to be honest. And we're very, very used to having to adapt. Everything's often quite last minute. You never know what's going to happen. When snow hit, was it 2012, and everyone that didn't have tight deposit rules lost thousands on Christmas parties, and there's always going to be something. What excites me about sales is the ability to tap into so many different revenue streams all the time, and what may not have been right for your business at that point becomes right for your business now. So when you're talking about staycations and UK travel, and to be honest, Bums on Seats, we've been talking about this for the last 4 or 5 weeks, it's going to be huge. From Mel's point, and I know she'll talk about this, hen and stags, we lost them abroad. I think they're going to stay in the UK more. Airbnb, you've got to tap into your local Airbnbs, remap your local community. The travel market is inbound is going to take a long time to bounce back, but within the UK, it's got to be something that I think all operators really seriously consider now. And certainly for Bums on Seats, we're working up sales reopening strategies and plans for different operators, and that's a whole key part of that.
Yeah, I would agree. At All Star Lanes, we're creating a number of packages designed exactly around those customers that perhaps would have gone away for a weekend with their families, or a girls' weekend wear, anything like that. And we're putting in easy to pre-book packages to help capture those people that are going to stay closer to home. And it's a real key focus of our opening strategy as well.
And you've got to have loose cancellation policies and terms and conditions as well. So 100% no quibble guarantees, all of that stuff needs to reflect customer behavior and how different that's going to be now. And built into, like Linda says, the pre-book package side of it, just make those as easy as possible to understand with really simple price points, and play to the different markets that are now going to be key.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I'm actually in a fortunate position, although the last sort of couple of months has been quite sort of difficult, and I don't think anyone can hide from that, especially from a hospitality point of view. We've had to move hundreds of bookings and postpone them and lost revenue, and I share the pain with a lot of operators that hopefully are listening to this, that it's not been nice. But I think some key things will come out of this is that customers are going to be overly loyal to those businesses that looked after them pre-lockdown with flexible cancellation policies and postponement. We as a small business have seen some massive benefits in terms of me flexing a little bit compared to some of the big guys. And I'm not going to name names, but you've only got to look at Trustpilot, and we've won hands down in terms of customers feeling like they've been listened to, because I've had that flexibility and not the huge overheads. But it's, when I'm speaking to customers regularly, we've kickstarted our marketing campaigns again, because the optimism, not so much right now, but certainly the later part of this year, September, October and onwards. Next year, 2020, was the year to get married, and sadly it's no longer the year, but 2021 is that year, and people are they are feeling optimistic. They want to go out, they want to celebrate. A lot of my customers now are holding out, and they're saying, actually, I've got a hen at the end of July. Might not happen as planned, but they want to hold out as long as they can. So to touch on Amber's point there as well about partnerships, in all my sort of previous career in different hospitality businesses, partnerships have been key, and local proximity events. Everyone's going to have to act and deal with things differently, but ultimately responsibly as well. Mm. But those partnerships, I speak to, I think we've got about 1,000 accommodation partners, both sort of, individual private homeowners, but also the big guys, Airbnb, hotels.com, booking.com, where they are seeing a huge surge in UK bookings, especially for next year. And they are crying out for those partnerships with hospitality businesses, some options, real takeaways for this. And I'll try not to go on too long, but TripAdvisor, they are adopting, as well as Airbnb and booking.com, are adopting the option to add on activities. Expedia, you can simply, some of it's a little bit of data entry. It's quite intense, but you can add your bookings on there, activities on there, cost free, and they just take a small percentage the other side. But there are so many opportunities and third parties that you don't have to have big marketing spends that you can sign up with. So I've got a list if anyone would like that at the end. Just obviously let us know.
Cool.
I think that'd be really useful. And that pent up demand has been mentioned quite a lot in previous webinars as well. And you've just reiterated that perfectly as well. And the stag and hen market won't wait for anybody.
No.
I think we all know that. And of course, coming from a karaoke background, there we know those customers extremely well. Yeah. I guess leading on from that is getting into a bit more of the advice side of things, and you've already started to give everyone a bit of advice on a lot of this. But thinking about growth, thinking about like how pre-book sales could help certain types of businesses in certain environments. Like from our side, we see scenarios like pre-booking working really well if there's potentially a room that wants to be used or developed. Sometimes you'd look at 70% of your core space and think, well, actually, I can't do too much with that. But we find a lot of rooms being taken over for pre-booking for karaoke, but it could be other forms of entertainment as well. So whether it's using pre-booking for utilizing an underutilized room, or used also maybe for like a slow moving Tuesday night, just trying to get a few of these scenarios from you of where a pre-book could really help your average operator, perhaps both small and large.
I think definitely looking at all areas spatially in your business and seeing how you can turn them into something that's more of a feature that can be pre-booked. We recently refurbished our Manchester venue, and we turned a storeroom into 2 karaoke rooms, and that's gone really well for us. So you can always find somewhere else to keep the boxes, so that's worked well. And we also created 2 new semi-private areas, where one that's actually a semi-private pair of bowling lanes, and one that's like a little area that we've cordoned off in the bar. And, they were quite simple to just carve up our floor plans differently and make them something that people are like, oh, I want to have my party there, either corporate or personal. So I definitely think that's a sensible suggestion to look at your spaces.
Well, I think also there's an element here of going back to basics, and there's an exercise that, again, we've done for clients recently where, just literally pen and paper. What are all the reasons that customers have to book with you? And that's everything from weddings and wakes to birthdays to just dinner to lunch to Sunday roast to brunch to masterclass and then, what do you offer for all of those reasons, and where's the crossover? And then who are the customers that would actually book? Where are they, and what sections do you offer them? What can you give them? And just do a real back to basics remap of your menu and what the opportunities are, which maybe you haven't had time to do or you haven't needed to do. But I guarantee within there, once you start drilling down, especially who are the customers that will book, and you look in your local community, forget even going bigger than that for phase 1, there'll be so much there. And it's just about getting the right package and the right space in your venue that works for you and the customer.
Yeah, I agree. And I think just to add on to that is one of the big notes that I wrote for this meeting is utilising your teams. Lots of you might have small teams or, huge teams, but they are sat at home on some sort of furlough scheme or whatever. And I know, speaking to other people that are, aren't working, especially in hospitality, generally quite active people, very creative, is utilising their minds, saying, guys, we've got this space, or is there anything you've thought of or you've attended, the likes of bongo bingo, karaoke, all these really immersive experiential activities that can be used in your business. And I mean, out sort of obviously prime in terms of, we have over 2,000 activities used, anything from goggle football to burlesque to pole dancing, you name it, we've got those kind of activities. And I think that there are so many providers that I work with and speak with on a daily basis, and have done so more throughout this lockdown, that are crying out for venues. And once again, I'm happy to sort of release that contact book to you guys, because they, you know, a client of ours, a supplier of ours, Extreme Events, for example, you know, they're looking to set up partnerships with different businesses and different operators, from really small venues all the way to massive ones. So I know there are a lot of businesses. It's just about opening up those communication channels and really getting going, really.
What I would say though, which often gets forgotten or not talked about enough in sales, we always jump to the opportunities and who can we talk to, but you've got to take a step back and look at your process, and that's really important. And I think this is a time to look at your online booking journey. And, you know, how many clicks does a customer have to make to book? Really basic stuff. Who's picking up the inquiries and what's the inquiry process? Is it really easy to understand online, and do I stand out? And is that reflected on my social media, and do the process bit? And then back of house, key is what we call CRT, which is customer response time. So if you're going to drive in all these new inquiries and you've got limited capacity, you've got to make sure that you're picking up and dealing with the customer in the fastest possible way. And because they're going to have queries, they're going to be wanting to know, you know, what safety measures have you got in place? So I think the process bit does have to come first. And actually, probably the biggest part of that, which I haven't talked about yet, is your booking system. Now, there's 3 or 4 out there on the market. I've got my preferred one, but I probably shouldn't say that because this is unbiased. But, you know, just revisit your booking system and make sure it's up to date, because that will do a lot of the hard work for you, and you can plug your bookings and inquiries directly into there. So this is a really good time to look at your process.
Yeah.
And the whole, you mentioned the technology, and that's one thing I really wanted to talk about, is that there'll be those on this webinar taking lots of notes and thinking, okay, well, one of the starting points is actually looking at the process, as you mentioned, Amber, but like the technology, actually, how easy are these technology plugins, infrastructures? Because if they're probably thinking, if you can't get a quick, if you dedicate a quick CRT, you definitely need a platform that can help you achieve this, because at the end of the day, it's the technology that helps drive that experience and makes it easy for the customer to just go click. Yes, you might not want to mention your preferred favorite, but I'd certainly like to offer separately to this, perhaps as a separate follow-up, actually what that wider list is. I think that would be quite useful, because sometimes doing your research online, it's always better to speak to the people that have tried and tested a few.
I mean, we've got some amazing technology in our industry. It just often, it hasn't always taken off as quickly as it should have done, but now, because of this forced isolation and the restrictions, it's going to. And, you know, there are even things like your Wi-Fi data, you know, wireless social, I think they're amazing. Feed it back for your customer feedback. You've got Tip Jar, which is fantastic now, which is a way to pay with your phone and still reward staff. All of this technology is out there. And actually, if I was an operator, that's what I would be investing in. And obviously, unfortunately, none of it necessarily syncs. So every time you put in new technology, it does mean there's more work on the team. And depending on the size, and Linda can answer this more than I can, but depending on the size of your ops team, it can become quite cumbersome. You've got all these things going on, and you might also have Open Table and Book a Table and Quandu, and it gets a bit, but spend time and money on investing in technology now, because customers will want 24/7 responses. They will want to pay contact free. They will want all of these things. So, and it is out there, it does exist. So I'll happily pull a list together of some of the better.
It would be great to stay on this topic, actually, because I'd like to just hear from everyone, like what technology they're using, how they're using it, and, you know, feel free to mention the technologies that have wasted your time, perhaps, you know.
Yeah, I couldn't do that, Steve. The industry's too lovely, but yeah.
We're all friends.
But yeah, true. But yeah, I don't know, Linda, what have you done with tech? Because you're pretty far ahead, aren't you? I mean, you guys have been doing pre-booked.
Yeah, I mean, and we've got quite a uniquely complex offering in terms of how we can allow you to book a bowling lane, a karaoke room, a bar booth, and a restaurant table. So we've had to actually go with a bespoke system that allows you to book those elements all in one go, because as you say, you don't want people having to book their table, book their lanes, and to make that customer journey easier and more seamless for them, we've gone that way. But in other directions, obviously, we're like the rest of the world, we've introduced web-based ordering platform for people now, because everybody wants to go a little less contactless. We are changing some of our group booking procedures so that they're more one click to increase the speed of response and things like that. So I totally agree with you, Amber, on those ones. But I think when you're talking about smaller businesses, maybe single site units, then I would say just make sure it's easy for your managers to understand and for your customers. And there are some amazing all bells and whistles solutions out there, but the trade-off of training those in might not result in a gain for everybody.
Yeah.
I still remember the days when it was just a diary, you know, and you wrote in it, and that worked fine back then.
And that wasn't
wouldn't
that
work
long
now
ago
for many
yeah.
places, but yeah. So I think, yeah.
I think that's key. I mean, all of our, so we've got a sort of bespoke CRM as well, purely because of the volume of kind of bookings. Generally, we have sort of up to 30 guests traveling on a weekend, and they may have 4 or 5, maybe even 7 different activities all happen on different times, different dates. Some people doing those activities, some not, then accommodation on top. So it's in terms of it's a very complex booking process. However, I've used the likes of Design My Night in the past, and you know, it is very plug and play. Some people like it, some people don't, but in terms of being able to,
my favourite, Rahel, you've just mentioned my favourite.
Yeah,
I could have guessed that.
It's official.
Yeah, sorry, I just said it. In terms of being able to, like Amber said, plug and play and integrate things, and you know, you don't have to have web developers on hand. They are, you know, customer support is phenomenal. SEO in terms of your marketing and that whole support package, they are, you know, they're second to none. I don't know the other ones, so if there is one out there, then by all means, it's all a trial and sort of error really, but it's integrating it with your website and your online platform. And ultimately the underlying thing is, irrespective of all the technology, although that is very important, is that your customer has seen what they like and they can book it. And as long as that experience is seamless, or as seamless as possible, everything else will fall into place.
Yeah.
So technology doesn't have to be as complex these days. There's tried and tested systems out there that you're using, and you've done the hard work of testing the bad ones for everyone as well, so which is good. So let's assume there's the desire there. So somebody says, okay, I've listened to the first 15-20 minutes of this webinar, and I certainly would like a percentage of my business to be driven through pre-book. Technology doesn't seem to be that complex. Obviously you need to do a bit of research, but that's something that of course can be overcome. But then there's the resource, the manpower, and perhaps the marketing behind this, which is powering, sometimes being powered by one person doing 10 other things in getting their business moving and working. So it kind of really nice to get a feel for how the marketing needs to support this, because there will be small, medium, large operators who are thinking, well, you need a big marketing team, big budgets. Is that the case, or is it just the willingness and energy to make it work that?
Yeah, look, I think, you know, if you're a single site, for example, you don't necessarily need a salesperson or a dedicated marketeer. It depends on the skill set in your ops team. My view is you've got to keep it simple and keep it impactful. So, you know, that, and it kind of goes back to strategy, doesn't it? What is it that you actually want pre-book sales to achieve for you? Okay, profit, number one, right? But what does that actually look like? So there are things that you're not going to be able to do versus someone that has £1 million marketing budget and a team of 20 in a central sales team. It's not going to happen. But you just need to pick what's best for you. And I think the best place to start is, which I've said previously, is your booking system, your online journey, and then what happens back of house when those inquiries come in, who picks up them, who's accountable, and what's your very basic community social media plan. You know, if you do nothing else but drive your social media as a strategy, and there's so many free webinars on that at the moment as well, by the way, that you can get. I'm by no means an expert, but if you just do that, that will have impact. It doesn't have to be everything, and it can be a phased approach as well. Of course, you can, you know, start off doing one thing, you've got your hand of that, then bolt on, bolt on, bolt on.
Yeah, I think to add to that as well, I'm in a probably fortunate position. I've got an online marketing business as well that sort of started off the back of out entry really, and seeing some successes and seeing that actually there was a lot of jargon and a lot of kind of false promises within the marketing world, which is why I started Online Marketing Help. But in terms of actually starting that process, I started out at entry say last year, March 2019. Little old me, I'd quit my job and sort of wanted to go fully on my own really, and I have been and was up until 9 months ago doing everything myself. And actually what it takes is a lot of dedication. It does take some sort of sleepless nights or sort of slightly longer shifts, which I know that anyone that's worked in hospitality is semi used to, and really just coming up with a plan. And lots of people, and we see it all the time, especially marketing side of my business, is people go, I need to be on Pinterest, I need to be on Instagram, I need to be on all TikTok, Twitter, all these different platforms. And actually what you need to focus on, which is where your customers are, and it might be that you just absolutely now Instagram, or you absolutely just now Facebook, but getting one of them right and making sure the messaging and the communications is on point is far more important than scattergunning and just posting religiously because someone's told you need to post every day. So if anyone wants any help with that, completely free. I won't do the marketing for you, but I'm more than happy to give you some advice and pointers. And the other thing that complements social media, that actually sadly our industry doesn't do so well as a whole big picture, is paid advertising. And you don't have to have hundreds and thousands in the bank to be successful at doing paid marketing campaigns, whether it be Facebook. Pinterest is such a wasted kind of paid advertising platform that a lot of people don't use. And actually people that use Pinterest generally are high income earners, and they've got a lot more flexibility in terms of their disposable income. So there's hundreds of channels, but drill down into the one that works for your business or your competitors are using, and they're getting success from it, and then go hell for leather with that plan and strategy.
I think the other point I would add to marketing, I mean, I'm quite fortunate in my current role that we have a great head of marketing and a head of sales, so I don't have to worry about that so much. But in other positions in my career, when I've had to be more responsible for it, and it really isn't my bag, to be honest, it's not something that comes naturally to me. I relied quite heavily on brand support from my suppliers and partnerships that way. So if you can create something and involve them in it in your business, they'll do a lot of that legwork for you because it benefits them and yourselves. So you can look to those suppliers. And
it's a great shout. And just on the subject, just quickly, yesterday there was a Supersonic Marketing and a number of other industry experts clubbed together to build a 240-page document called the 100-Day Playbook, which is completely free of charge. And it's about 160K's worth of expertise for free that they're giving out to operators. And it's free to download, and it takes you through marketing, branding, PR, social media, customer feedback. Bums on Seats have got a section in there, but this generally isn't a plug for us. It's just about the fact that the industry have done that. And it's really, really good. And it's worth downloading, and it's just on the website, 100dayplaybook.com. So I definitely get the guys in, if you're interested, download it and have a look.
And we'll make sure that gets circulated again in the follow-ups. Fantastic, really, really lovely bit of advice there. So marketing and technology, we've kind of touched on, but I heard somebody say it, and apologies, I didn't actually know who said it, but the word CRM, and I it wasn't in the topic the subject matter specifically, but I think that I've only recently become aware of how powerful CRM is for a business who wants to have a long-term customer contact, learn their customer over time, and create loyalty, which was mentioned a few times as well. But also, I'm just trying to get a feel for, CRM used to be for the big businesses with thousands and thousands of customers. Is CRM becoming a bit more obtainable for a smaller business who wants to just understand how their customer is touching them every week or month of the year? I mean, this is Is this something that's useful also for a small and medium-sized business?
Yeah, I would definitely say it is. I mean, if you go right back to the basics of having a system that can tell you when someone's birthday is, that's probably the first thing that the industry started doing. You've got a birthday cocktail, and you can dial that all the way forward now. Some of the hotels have got amazing systems where they stock your minibar with Kit Kats because they know you ate 2 last time you went. So, you know, there's very different scales of it. But I think any pre-booking platform, the secondary benefit to that is all this data you gather on your customers. How, as you say, how often do they come? How do they like to book? What time of day do they like to come? Those sorts of things. And then you can target them with packages that are already of interest to them because you already know what they like.
Yeah, I think for small operators, Linda, you're bang on. Your booking system, if you get it right and you set it up right and you use the full functionality, you can get that data out of there. And so you don't need to be paying for 2 systems as a smaller operator. Obviously, as a bigger operator, absolutely. It's just the 2 systems potentially won't integrate, and that can be a challenge. So I would first of all look at what data is going into your booking system. Is it set up, and how are you auditing that data, and how regularly? And get it all stored in one place.
Yep. Good. Okay. I thought it was worth just touching on that because it seems to be quite an important part of the whole technology piece. And if you get that right, that also becomes your digital marketeer in many senses.
Can I just say, Steve, though, there is still nothing better than a good old relationship, and just having a chat with the customer and getting to know them and building rapport and talking about, you know, their needs and their wants and being memorable and all that stuff. People still buy from people. So all the technology is great. But, you know, I think specifically coming through COVID, customers are going to want a personal approach. So pick up the phone to everyone that's cancelled a booking with you or anybody that's rescheduled, and how are you? How has your isolation been? How are your family? And start a conversation, because technology will never be able to do that. And that for me is still as important, if not more important.
100%. And I guess that's in the whole building trust is still a face-to-face thing. You'll never be able to replace that, but it does bring us on to it is a fairly ambiguous topic, which is around safety. You know, building loyalty and trust. Yes, people want to drive pre-book sales. It's a given. Everyone would if they could, but doing that safely, responsibly, doing it with a view that you're not trying to cram doing pre-book for the pure basis of cramming 100 people into a 50-person space and not acknowledging what's going on right now. How do you operate your businesses? And I think more just related to how you're working your pre-book with the current situation. Some examples here about how you're being responsible at the same time as trying to drive your business with a pre-book model would be good.
So we're full into our reopening plans at the minute, which is great. It's quite nice to be doing something so positive. We're redoing all our floor plans to allow for distancing. We're looking at how we can screen areas, make the lanes, screen those off, so you actually have your own sort of private area, if you like, so that you're not mixed in with other people and things like that. So I think actually pre-booking, it's about just recognizing your capacity pinch points and ensuring that you don't overbook. And I think it was Amber that said it at the start. Actually, having this pre-book business enables you to redesign your floor plans based on the business you have booked in to come in, and making sure you keep everyone safe, so you're not in a situation where you do have too many people for the space.
Yeah,
Melissa, Amber,
sorry, yeah, just to add on to that, and the pre-booking side. Thank you. It's just over to the pre-book side, is that, you know, we've had so many customers that have had to move and postpone till next year. Some have postponed till later on in this year, and that is one of the biggest topics that we're sort of being asked, is how, especially when we've got, you know, cocktail masterclass groups of 20 girls heading over to Revs or wherever, going for drinks, and they are aware of it. They are. So worry is a bit strong, but there's an element of they want to know that business will make sure that their safety is catered for. But for a really long time, and I'm sure Amber's seen it, and also Linda, customers have wanted that more bespoke experience. They've wanted that, we've got our own private area, or we've got our, our own little space. And I think there's a twofold opportunity there. Is one, you can bring your business up to speed in terms of offering that, and customers will be a little bit forgiving in terms of delivery, because everything's a little bit glitchy when there's new changes. And two is that opportunity. And I think I'm so optimistic in terms of hospitality that for a really long time, customers have been king in terms of time frame. Now we have an opportunity, and especially operators, where you can now say, actually, that slot isn't available because we're fully booked, which I'm sure there's lots of smaller operators that haven't had that for a really long time. So those words, we're fully booked, will be ultimately the most refreshing thing when we get to open those doors. But there's the opportunity for you to utilise those times and those spots in your business where previously people weren't interested in booking, to really flex up and offer different things like brunches, bottomless brunch, afternoon teas, and those more, especially if you're a late night operator, is really tapping into those earlier time slots. I think that we, hopefully, as people that are so passionate about the industry, will be able to educate the customer that coming out earlier is important, and that's what will ultimately save lives, but also save our businesses by expanding those timeframes when people can enjoy hospitality and all that it has to offer.
Really good.
I would that we're taking an approach of 5 steps which on this topic, and the first one is when you open, pre-book 100%, even drink only, to whatever your limited capacity is. Make sure you have a 15-minute window in between table turnings to obviously clean down the table properly. Adhere to the 2 meters social distancing, which will probably drop to 1 meter, we think, very quickly. And restrict table times as much as you can, so an hour, hour and a half max. And make sure you photo and video everything. And get all of your Google 360 up and running. Make sure all of that's done. And I think, and be open with those steps that you've taken, and put that out there in your marketing and your social media. And again, that can go in your email templates and your policies. So that's for me, that's quite clear if we follow those things.
Really good. And I'm looking at our clock of approaching 45 minutes, and that has gone exceptionally quick. But I want to just have a quick, you guys have really contributed so much to this, and this is fantastic, and everyone will have taken a lot of notes. But I just wondering if you wouldn't mind just summarising, like 2 or 3 things that you'd really like everybody to take out from this. It could be a couple of top tips. It could just be a reiteration of some of the priorities that you mentioned earlier that people should follow about stepping into pre-book for the first time. And then I've got a couple of quick questions which I'll just throw out, and whoever fancies answering them, we can end on that, if that's okay. So some top tips. Anyone want to delve into that one? Doesn't have to be too complex, but if you'd like everybody to just take away something, what would that be?
I think if you're coming to pre-booking for the first time, make sure it's as simple for your customers to pre-book as possible. Sort of live that journey through their eyes. It can't be difficult. Your website or booking widget needs to be really clear about what they're booking, what they're getting, when they can book, that sort of thing. And I would make sure that you do have a book with confidence type policy where people know that you can be a little more flexible than perhaps we would have been about a year ago. That's what I would say to people that are looking at it for the first time.
Thank you. Okay. By Melissa?
Yeah, so I'd say that the 3 big takeaways for me is obviously technology, similar to what Linda said, is it's really important, but don't overwhelm yourself or your teams, and try and, start off, like Amber said earlier, in a phased approach, and just step by step. There are so many people out there, especially now, that have got free time, that one, are willing to give you their time for free and help you, but also there are a lot of businesses out there that are that benefit from you using them. So utilize that opportunity. Everyone's had this down period where they could sort of refresh and get their creative heads back on, and really sort of expose yourself and listen to what people have got to say. The next one, and I'm probably a little bit biased, is third parties and partnerships. There are lots of companies out there like myself that will be willing to open up those discussions and add to their portfolio and it sort of help you. And then finally is the massive opportunity is your team and the people that, whether it's your wife at home, your sort of family members, and the wider team in your workplace, is they will have ideas. They will have sat at home probably twiddling their thumbs, coming up with some really weird and wacky ones. So utilize them and really get them to engage now before the floodgates open.
Thanks. And Amber, anything further from your side? You mentioned already quite a few top tips.
I'll be quick. Relationships are key. So build trust, focus on your process, systems and customer response time, and shout louder and be really proactive. Basically, go for it.
That's a good one to end on, certainly. So there were 3 questions that have come in, and I'm not going to go. I'm just going to say what those 3 questions were, and if there's any that you'd like to draw out and just give us a few answers to, then great. But then at least I've ticked the box that I've read out all the questions. But sorry if we can't answer them in the amount of detail that the person would have liked them. But the first one is, what other measures outside pre-book are you thinking about? Secondly, how or will you use pre-book differently after lockdown? And how can booking platforms help you manage social distancing in venues? So I'm not necessarily saying all those 3 have to be answered, but if there's any of those that you think I have to answer that one now, please.
How can booking platforms help you with your social distancing? And I know we've sort of touched on it, but setting up your capacities and your table rules are really key, and they take all the work of that out for you. And most booking platforms are quite easy to adjust and amend as rules get relaxed. So keep updating your floor plans, keep changing your table restrictions as the regulations change, to make sure you're maximizing your revenue as much as possible. So don't just do them once and leave them, keep updating them as you can.
Yeah.
You mentioned,
sorry, Steve, I missed the questions. I think my
I did read them out quite quickly, didn't I? All 3.
Yeah, no, I think it's my Wi-Fi. I'm down in Somerset, so it's a bit dodgy.
It's
so
what
sorry.
happens when you throw them all out so quickly. But no, it was what other measures outside of pre-book are you thinking about? How or will you use pre-book differently after lockdown? And how can booking platforms help you manage social distancing in venues?
Yeah, so the booking platforms managing social distancing, that would be part of your floor plans. So obviously making sure that your booking platform is updated with the floor plans adhering to your new table layouts. I think it's really key to remember that this isn't going to go on forever, and that what you've been doing before with pre-booked is still going to be relevant at some point, but it's an opportunity to look at additional ways of working and better technology and systems.
Melissa, anything further on that front from your side? Or
Yeah, I think it just quickly is outside of pre-book, and what we're really focusing on is just that long-term marketing strategy. Lots of businesses we've seen have so drilled down on coronavirus that actually they've lost their top spot on Google for nightclubs, and they've just drilled into coronavirus and they've become almost a bit irrelevant. So there's a real opportunity with some good keyword analysis to sort of pip some of the bigger guys that have almost lost their spot because they've been focusing on coronavirus, sadly. So big opportunity there. And in terms of managing social distancing, customers understand that it's not going to be perfect. You've only got to walk in Tesco's and someone darts the wrong way, or whatever it is. They understand, and as long as there's an awareness for it, it's not a hospital. It can't be ran so clinically. People are out to have fun, and hospitality is exactly what you guys are offering, is that experience. And don't forget to, like Amber said, don't remove the human element, just be more aware of it.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you. I think everybody watching might have realised the last 10 minutes we've tried to race through to get keep this under the hour, but it would be great to get those that have watched this, your feedback. So if there are certain areas of this this webinar that you think we should cover in a bit more detail, or you'd like to see more of, it would be great to get your feedback so that we can shape future webinars, or may even see a part 2 to this. So your feedback would be appreciated. But as we are 50 minutes now into our webinar, I think it's a good point to kind of say thanks to Amber, Melissa and Linda. A really great dialogue, and hope everyone saw the value and the insight gained through your eyes. So thank you for sharing and being a part of this. But yeah, we are now at the end of this webinar again. So thanks to everyone for joining, freeing up some time to be with us. We will follow up with a copy of the video for those that would like to receive that. Everyone has been great at contacting us after the webinar, so please do keep that coming, and we promise to do more of these where that feedback continues, of course. So on behalf of Singa, I'd like to wish everyone a nice finish to the week. Thanks for attending one final time, and goodbye from us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye bye.